All right, so I want to talk a little bit about bigamy. And yeah, I'm starting with this source that is, as you see here. There's a reason why hopefully you don't have a short attention span. So this is a California law, but notice it's in the penal code. Yes, bigamy is in the penal code, okay? Penal means penalty. That's why you have crimes and punishments. So when you see penal code, think punishment or penalty. This is the thing. So penal code section 281 deals with bigamy. It says every person having a spouse living who marries or enters into a registered domestic partnership with any other person, except that in this particular section 282, is guilty of bigamy. Now, notice this inflammatory word guilty. Why and how is it a penalty in a penal code where there's a punishment for simply having more than one spouse? That's just like I put on my work boots to go work and there's a penalty. It doesn't add up. It's just with all of the stuff that goes on that's actually legal, but it's weird.
LGBTQIA, it's not a phase. I was born this way, meaning I can't change.
Here's something that's just normal and there's a penalty against it. You see what I'm saying? Because they have this jumbled up into all these different weird. How are you going to group bigamy in with incest and crimes against nature? How is it unnatural to have more than one wife as it applies to men? I don't see where there's guilty. It doesn't even say. It's just because it's in a statute. And that's why I'm covering this so that you can see. Oh, yeah, there's a statute, but then sometimes, a lot of times in courts and law, statutes have a lot of unnatural things, but it thinks that it's natural. I need to point this out. I really need to. Now, we know actually in the Bible that having more than one wife is no problem. Let's get that. So right here, this is Deuteronomy 21:15. It says, if a man have two wives right there, okay, one beloved and one hated, and they have borne him children. So we have a law here that applies to if a man has more than one wife. I'm just going to the top because that's at the bottom of the page. Beloved and hated. And if the firstborn son be hers that was hated, then it shall be. See, long story short, there's a law applicable to when a man has more than one wife. There's never been anything wrong with this, and I'm only showing this in the Bible and the law because where it says crimes against nature. Well, then that would mean that there's something unnatural right here. And see, this is where there's a conflict. Again, I'm showing this because primarily I know there's a what is that? Egyptology belief that the Bible has something to do with Europeans. This actually contradicts what Europeans do. This is prima facie evidence that this book, the Bible, has nothing to do with any type of European culture, because European culture is condemning having more than one wife. Yes, this is general. When you see bigamy like this, it's including females having more than one husband. Now that would be against nature, because you don't see that in here. It's a man having more than one wife. Let's get it one more time. So right here in Exodus 21:10, it says, if he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. So this is a second witness again that a man can have more than one wife. It's never a woman having more than one husband, because that would be unnatural. We have to know this because, for one, there's Bible, there's religion, or what common society says. And then there's just from common society that just goes back to what Europeans believe in, having nothing to do with this book. The book is about nature. European society is just what makes really Europeans feel better about themselves. So I'm showing this to decipher the two, the Bible, and then there's this statute that I'm using as an example, Penal Code 281. It's called crimes against nature, but there's an unnatural concept here because there's men and then there's women. It would be unnatural for this against women, but not men. This does not belong in any type of penal code, unless if you want to call it a crime against nature, unless you apply it only to one group of people. It's not equal across the board. This would apply to, females only, not men. Because where we just saw, a man can have more than one wife. It is not unnatural. This is not religion. This is not common society. This is not European expectation. This is none of that. This is thus saith the Lord. And speaking of thus saith the Lord, let's look at this. And I hope this is clear to everybody. I hope this is clear to who's watching. So this is a public law, 1982. So I covered this before. I'm just making this bigger. There we go. So it says, whereas I'm going to start here. Let's just start at the top. The Bible, the Word of God, has made a unique contribution in the shaping of the United States as a distinctive and blessed nation and people. Okay? So it's using the Bible. But the thing is this, whereas deeply held religious conviction, so they're using the Bible incorrectly. They're using it for religion. And this is where you get this from. It's from European religion, because it's not coming out of the Bible itself. When you look at the Bible, see, that's where religion contradicts the Bible. When you put religion, I'm not going to say into the Bible, when you read the Bible and you take religion from it, then you get silly bullshit like this, where it should only apply to one group of people, and that group of people is females. It would be a crime against nature for females to have more than one husband, not for a man to have more than one wife. And as I look at this, Title 9 of crimes against the person involving sexual assault and crimes against public decency and good morals. Who are these people to set morals? But in the same group, in the same state, will be like, yeah, it's okay for you to fill in the blanks. So as we come back here, they're using it for religious convictions and not any. Let's finish. Springing from the Holy Scriptures led to the early settlement of our nation. Biblical teachings inspired. They're using it for inspiration to inspire also their religions. But the Bible is not about their religion. I try to talk about that with Dan Calloway, and other people like him, but, a fool will be a fool. Teachings inspired concepts of civil government, true, that are contained in the Declaration of Independence. So long story short, they're using the Bible as an inspiration to its civil government. It says it right here, and this is an official. Where is it? Because I already Man, you typed this yourself. Man, you did this. This is an authenticated U.S. government document. I did not do this. Nothing. Okay, so we come back here to the book. If he take him another wife, you will never see a woman having another man. That would be called a whore. She would not live too long.
Yes, we are all sluts. You're a slut. All these dudes behind you are sluts. Your cameraman's a slut. Your PA's a slut. And your mic's a slut.
So, again, and that's another thing that contradicts, this and this about being whores. So, they, European culture will pick and choose, we need this to build a society. But once that society's built, their natural instincts of heathen Gentilism, it kicks in. It kicks in because they're not the people of the book. All they really did was just translate it into English, and then everybody thinks they have a monopoly on it. I'm not talking bad on anybody, but the truth is the truth. Reality is reality. If all I do is translate some, this is another thing I try to get on Dan Calloway with, but the book is the book, religion is religion. They are not the same thing. If I translate something, that doesn't make me the author. It has nothing to do with me. The first thing somebody want to say is King James, blah 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 blah, and start talking about his personal life, like Dan Calloway. What does that have to do with the book? People want to, King James is a homosexual. Oh, let's say, pretending that is true. What does that have to do with the book? A book that condemns homosexuality. Has nothing to do with him or none of that. He's only authorized to translate it from one language to another. Has nothing to do with him, his children, his nation of people, etc. The people are so hard-headed, but that's another topic. But yeah, this is them outlawing something that's natural to one group of people. So if you say you're in California, because this is California legislature, if you're in California, you have more than one wife, they're going to try pursuant to this code to then penalize you, give you a penalty for doing something natural. Ladies and gentlemen, you will be penalized for doing something natural if you're a man. That's where this doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. I would, if I was on trial for this, I would bring, even though it'd get ignored, but they wouldn't be able to defeat this information that I just presented with this, and with this, and with this. They would ignore it, do whatever the hell they want to do, because that's how California courts are. But that's another story, But they would ignore it. But this would be a solid case that they wouldn't be able to touch. They wouldn't be studied enough on it. They would just go through the flow, penal code, statute, this nigga's guilty. That's just how California courts are. But I think I hit the nail on the head with this today. If you have anything to say, leave a comment. But that's all I have for now. As it is written, and I'm out.